And welcome, good friends, to another 7 Days to Die video. Today's episode is having a spotlight on the knives, and that includes the machete, as well as bleeding, something that can be fairly powerful in 7 Days to Die. Now, it might come as a surprise that bleeding would be useful on zombies, considering they are sort of already dead, but I guess they're more like undead, not quite animated, but some virus or something has taken them over. So without blood, I guess they don't function very well. Or maybe you slice them heavily enough that takes out some of the tendons and muscles, and those degrade to the point that they will eventually die from the damage, maybe. Anyway, that's the logic and realize behind it is perhaps not as important as actually how it works. Hopefully you enjoy these spotlights that I'm doing in 7 Days to Die, and if you do, make sure you subscribe to the channel and leave that like and maybe comment below. But we'll be going through the different crafting that you can do and the skills that apply. We'll look at the different knife weapons there are a few of them, as well as how they actually work when you're, using them against the zombies. And finally, how does bleeding actually work? And as a bonus, let's have a look as well at the end at what mods would you actually want to put on your knives or your machete in order to use it the most effectively. As you can tell, I'm here in front of the hospital. Of course, I got the medical crew behind me, nurses and a doctor, just in case anyone is about to die. So don't worry, no zombie was hurt or killed during the testing. Because, of course, they've signed waivers stating that whatever I do is not really considered hurt or killing them because, they're not super alive. And first off, let's have a look at crafting and skills because they sort of actually go together. Now, initially, when you're trying to craft, and that's the bone knife. I think it used to be called a bone shiv at some point, but now it's called a bone knife. You can craft this one as long as you have some bones. You don't actually need to unlock anything. Anyone can do this, which is really helpful because as soon as you kill an animal, you get some bones. Make sure you get a bone knife and use it to skin animals because that's one of the use for it. When it comes to the hunting knife, you do need to unlock it, unfortunately. Same thing with the machete. You need to unlock it. And when it comes to the candy cane, actually, you can't unlock it because this is a Christmas event item. You can only find it during Christmas times when these ones are enabled in the loot boxes, or loot tables rather. So when you do find them, I would definitely keep them in your storage at home. They're fairly alright, but if nothing else, they have sort of a novelty decoration value, even though you might be using something better later on. But the skill we're looking at, main attribute is agility, which sort of makes sense because you have to be sort of agile in order to sort of move forward and backwards and running around and slicing and dicing them. And specifically, it's deep cuts. And here you have the first one, which is dull blade. Again, as usual, there's 5 that requires different levels, 3, 5, 7, and 10 in order to completely max out. Now, you look at the first one, it mentioned you can craft quality 2 pour knives, which okay. You also deal 10% more damage. You can inflict up to 3 bleeding wounds, which is up from the regular 2 that you can inflict if you don't have any training, and a power attack will inflict 2, which is helpful. Every attack refreshes the direction of bleeding, which is really good as well, and they run slower while bleeding, and even further unlocks hunting knife crafting. So after this one, you can actually craft the hunting knife. As we go down 2, 3, 4, 5, you deal increasing amount of damage until they consider you a samurai. You can make sushi out of your foes. I'm not really sure samurais actually made sushi, but anyway, not that you necessarily want to have a zombie sushi. Ooh, zombie sushi. Oh, special today. Only $3.99 for 5 pieces. Anyway, you deal 50% more damage. That's about 10% per actual level that you do here. 50% more damage, and you can inflict up to 7 bleeding wounds on an enemy. And a power attack, it inflicts 5. And if you look through it, it'll be somewhere in between here. We say this the third one. You can inflict 5, and a power attack inflicts 4, etc., etc. It also mentions that enemies run 20% slower while bleeding, and all glancing blows cause 1 bleeding wound. So keep that in mind. I will be showing it unskilled, and then I'll go through in a little bit and do number 1 and number 5 just so you can see the difference. So we've established that without any training, you can craft a bow knife. If you train a little bit, you can craft the hunting knife. Now there's additional things that you can do here. You can actually find the hunting knife schematic, which would allow you to craft it without actually going into this. Secondly, if you want the machete, you actually have to find the schematic. Well, unless you loot a high quality machete directly. But if you want to craft it, you do need to unlock the machete. It's like all the tier 3 weapons. It's only from schematic. You cannot learn it from the skill. So that's something to keep in mind. As always, you can only craft up to tier 5, quality 5 weapons, or an armor in general. So if you find a quality 6, hang on to it because you can never craft it. And in general, the knives are good for skinning. You can use them to fight, but they're not super powerful for that. They do have fairly low damage, so the stats are not really good. But the machete is really a fighting weapon, but it will work to skin things. So what's really the difference here? Well, let's go through them a little bit. So you see a quality 1 bow knife. You see melee attack. Damage is 5, power attack 20, sneak damage 400%. Pretty good. It's got a pretty low stamina cost, 7, and attack per minute at 120. As we go up in quality, you'll see the stats increase. Now, not the sneak damage, not the stamina cost or the attacks per minute, but pretty much everything else. So they deal more damage, and you can actually use it longer before it degrades because the max durability has gone up as well. If we then compare bow knife 5 to the hunting knife, you'll see that the hunting knife has better stats overall. Now, it does have slightly higher stamina cost as well. This goes for pretty much all of them, where it's better, deals more damage, but it also has slightly higher stamina cost. But I wouldn't really care about that because it's significantly better. So definitely if you find one or you can craft it, use that instead of the bone shiv or bow knife. If we then have a little bit of a look on the candy cane, you'll see that it's fairly similar to the hunting knife, got slightly better stats overall. So if you have that one and you don't have a machete, just use the candy cane knife. It looks pretty cool as well when you're holding it. I mean, it's like nothing you would necessarily want to be eating, but something that goes very well to stab someone with. Finally, let's compare with the machete, which is really a melee weapon. You'll see it does 20 damage compared to the 6 of the quality 1 hunting knife. That goes all the way up to 29, give or take, compared to the hunting knife of 9. So it's a massive damage, it's 3 times the amount. Of course, the attributes are somewhat random as well, so you could find one that has slightly more or less on each of these stats, so keep that in mind. It does maintain the sneak damage bonus, so that's something to keep in mind. It is considered a knife as well. So if you want to sneak up and stab someone and you have a machete, it's definitely better than just using a hunting knife, for instance. Interestingly though, the machete has less durability, and that seems to go across all of them. For all the machetes have less durability than the hunting knife. I wonder why that is. So let's have a look here at skinning them. And that's something you definitely want to be using when you're skinning anything. Use the best quality you have. Let's say here, 1 stab here gives me 161 here. And if I use this one, you'll see I get significantly more. So always use the high quality, higher tier weapon that you have when you're doing skinning, because you deal more damage, is faster, and of course, that's really, really useful. I think in the end, you might end up with the same amount of resources, but standing here and slowly stabbing with a small, fairly blunt bow knife just leaves you open to something else attacking you. But enough about that. Let's see, how does bleeding actually work? And we're going to bring in our good friend here, Hawaiian, because he's got a lot of hit points. So let's have a look at him. So I'm going to show you with, let me show you with the machete, because it doesn't really matter. So 570 hit points. When I hit him once, you'll see his hit points are going to, health points are going to go down, and then you'll see the bleeding. 540, and you see the bleed. About 1 per second. Now that's going to keep on going down, and you'll see there's this pretty nice red blood that is being splattering all over. I guess we know that they are red-blooded. And it's going to go down to, let's see here, still counting down, 24, 23, 22, 21, okay, 22. So it did about 18 damage for its bleed. If I use a bow knife, you see damage did 8, went down to 62, and then he starts bleeding. So you can do bleeding regardless, and it seems to actually bleed on every hit. Doesn't seem to be like there's any chance or anything. It will always bleed. See here? Yep, definitely bleeding. So it's something to keep in mind. If you do have a knife and you just want to stab them running away, it actually does help quite a bit, because they will bleed about 18, 20, whatever of hit points, even as you are further away. Now, if we look at a power attack, and that's right clicking, let's see here, 470, you'll see the bleeding is twice as fast. It's basically ticking down twice per second. So it means that a power attack will give you 2 bleeds, and it's actually the maximum. If I hit him a couple of times here, you'll see it's still only giving 2 bleeding. So it's either 1 or 2 bleeding, depending on what you do. And if you hit him twice, actually, let's do a new one. If you hit him twice with a regular attack as well, you will also be bleeding him 2 at a time. So it doesn't mean that you only need to use the power attack in order to stack the bleeds. You can do that even with a regular attack. And of course, if you keep attacking, it will refresh the bleed. So let's say we then go through and we unlock this one. We'll unlock the first one, which means that you can now inflict up to 3 bleeding wounds and a power attack inflicts 2. So let's do that. That's 1. So let's bring him in again. Hello, Mr. Feral Tourist. Let's see if I attack once. 1 bleed. 1 again. 2 bleed. Let's do that one. And now it's, you see, it's 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2. So we are doing 3 bleeds. Same thing if I right click and I power attack, we now have 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2. So we were stacking up to 3 bleeds. And you can of course count 3 times the 18 or almost 20 damage. It's going to deal almost 60 damage extra if I just stand back. And that's pretty good. Of course, for him having 570, it's not going to kill him. But a regular zombie that might only have, let's see, something like this, 125. Well, of course, this is a legendary zombie. 125, it'll deal about half the damage simply from the bleed if you have 3 stacked bleeding on it. And that's fairly powerful. Well, let's pump this up to all the end. Now we're of course dealing more damage with the attack, and we can inflict up to 7 bleeding wounds with a power attack. And this is something that actually didn't work before. It used to only stack up to, I think, about 4 or something, and then I simply couldn't give more bleeding on the zombie. So I think that was broken in the previous versions for whatever reason. But let's see here. Let's bring him in. If we do 2 power attacks, we should be stacking up to 7. And let's see here, doing, if you count there, you'll see it actually goes down 3 and then 4. 3 and then 4, which means that the bleeding has been fixed. It's now stacking properly. It is dealing 7 bleed per second, and that's really, really good, because it means that you're going to deal about 130 plus damage to a zombie simply by stabbing a couple of times. And of course, that means that a couple of attacks on one of these ones actually will kill them. Of course, now I deal so much damage because I got a really good machete that deals 29, plus the power attack, plus the stack damage that you get from, that gives, because of the deep cut, you'll see I deal extra 50% damage. So, oh, sorry, I guess I should have been having any nurses. All right, I might have to call in some extra help if anyone is about to die. I didn't mean to kill the nurses that were supposed to keep you alive. But anyway, you know, mistakes happen. So something like this, bring him down to 90 and then just let the bleed take care of him. I could run away and he would just slowly expire on his own. And that can be helpful in some situations. You just have to make sure you don't stay too close, and there he expires. Nice. Now, what mods should you actually be using here? And there's been some changes, as in any alpha. They do change how things are. I've done sort of a tier 1 to 3 here. At the top tier, these are the ones I would consider actually doing. Rad Remover, always useful, because if you are stabbing and letting the bleed go, you want to make sure he's not regenerating. So putting this on means that he's going to be bleeding and he will not be regenerating. So this is a must. I would definitely put this on once you unlock. And of course, as with anything, quality 1 will have 1 modifier slot. Quality 3 will have 2, and as you go all the way up to 6, you can have 4. So the more higher quality, the more mods you can have. So let's put on this one. Hunter mod. It can be useful when you're being attacked by, let's say, a bear, coyote, a killer rabbit. Okay, there's no killer rabbits, but you know, maybe mountain lion, something like this. So this one is actually fairly useful as well. However, I can't put it in because I got the Rad Remover. So I would favor the Rad Remover. If you don't have that one, the Hunter mod is really good. Now, going down to other slots, potentially look at using some grip mods. The ergonomic grip mod is pretty good because it reduces the stamina usage, and that can be helpful if you want to keep on attacking because you want to have stamina to run away. You also might want to have the fortifying grip mod because it will heal you 1 point every 5 seconds when health is below 50%. And of course, unfortunately, you can't have both this one and this one, so you have to choose one of them. After that, tier 2, having the potential of an extra bleeding wound on a regular attack is super pointless when you're using a knife, because every attack will give you 1 bleed. Giving a 1 bleed plus 10% of 10% chance of another bleed is, it's just fairly useless. So you can take it, but it's not super good. Now, when it comes to structural brace mod, again, this one can be good, and you can use that at the same time as the grip. That's fine. You could also put on diamond blade tip mod if you don't use, I believe, this one, because of course you can't have 2 mods that actually lower degradation. So put on this one, and it means that it's going to degrade 40% slower, which is useful, less repairs. Beyond that, just fill out with whatever you have. One thing that I miss is that in Alpha 19, I think Alpha 19 2 or something, they actually removed you from using weighted head mod. And that's a big pity, because I can't put the hunter mod. I can't put the structural brace mod at the same time as this ones. I could put on the serrated blade mod, that's it, but there's nothing else. There are no other mods that I can put on. Ergonomic mod doesn't work as well because I already have the grip and everything else. So what else are you going to put on? Previously, you could put on the weighted head, which means that you have the chance to stun and slow, and that's super useful when you're running the knife, because it means that you could go up, power attack them, they would have a chance to be stunned or slowed from the weighted head mod, and they would still slow down because of the attack itself, and that allowed you extra time to run away. Now you actually can't use any of them. You can put on the different resource mods that you have, but that's not super useful. So unfortunately, we have to go back to using the serrated blade mod. So I would say put on the rad remover, fortifying, diamond blade, and the serrated blade mod. You really don't have a lot of useful mods out there, and I wish they would put on more. It would be, I think it's something that FunPimps still have more work to do on, because all the weapons don't actually have the same amount of equal mods that they can actually put on. So something like a machete or knife, actually you max out fairly easily in which mods you can use, and then you might as well use it because the rest of them are worse. Now, the interesting with some of these mods is that, so I'm using now the rad remover, so the zombie should not be healing. Now, if I just attack with the regular one, you'll see it's actually healing up, right? As it should be going. That's the correct way, because I'm not using it on this one. So while there is some bleed, he's actually healing faster than he is taking damage. Using the rad remover, let's attack him once. There should be 1 bleed, and bleed is working. He's no longer regenerating. So I can stack a bunch of bleeds here on him like this. I can run away, and he will not heal up. He will still take all the damage until the bleed is over, which is about 130 damage to him, and then he's going to wait another about 70 seconds before he can actually heal again. So I could go up after that, go up, slice him again, run away. Oh, he was about to pop there. He got brought down to too low. Good thing I got this cheaty gun to actually take him out, because otherwise he'll take out my ambulance, and maybe he'll take out the legendary zombie there that is supposed to be helping us. So yeah, anyway, with that being the case, let's look at a little bit extra things that we can do here. So is the machete and everything worth using when you're fighting? And I think that in some situations they are. If you're just running around, making them bleed can be useful, but it's not super useful, because you really want to kill them, because if you just hit them once and run away, it's fine, but this one is going to be right behind you, so you're going to be running quite a long time just to kill one from the bleed. So you might as well just try to kill it outright a few times by hitting it. So that's not super useful. What you could be doing if you're doing your base building, however, is something like this, and this is something that I would definitely suggest testing out. If you are having your base building, you're having your kill corridor or something like this, you could have an opening like this. And let me bring in a, let's do something like that. You could have a corridor where you're standing on the side here, where you can actually attack them through it, and you do the bleeding, and you can do that on multiple zombies. So you can multiple hits on multiple zombies, and they will slowly bleed and then eventually just go back to it. And of course, you have to enclose it fully because now he would be behind. This is one way where it can be even more useful on a Blood Moon Horde Night if you want to do melee fights. But it does require you to have a base where you can actually stand safely on one side and attack through on another. The problem with the machete and the knives in general is during a Blood Moon Horde, you can slow down the zombies. And if you, let's have a look here at the skills again. You'll see under the deep cuts, you're actually slowing them down 10% here and 20% here, which is, it's good. It means that they're not going to catch up with you as much, however, or easily. The problem though is that there are generally too many zombies to go melee with. And because you can't really knock them down, you can only slow them. That really becomes a problem because you're going to have to attack, run away, slice another one, run away, slice another one, run. You know, you're going to get overwhelmed fairly fast. And that's unavoidable. And if you're just exploring POIs, well, you know, sure, you can stab them in the face or the head before they wake up. That's probably what I would be doing most of the time rather than outright fights. I might want to have, for instance, a club or a gun. And at nighttime, you can go up. Oh, and just stab them in the face. Because if you have a properly outfitted knife, you do that extra. Come on, give me a minute. Yeah, I can't even reach him. Come on. There you go. I can reach and do a lot of extra damage. Now I have a lot of sneak damage that I have applied here because I'm using my machete, which you can see gives extra sneak damage. And if I then go even further and I use hidden strike, let's do that. Let's bring that up. Now I should be doing an extra 250% damage. Let me see if I can find. There we go. 8x bonus damage. Oh, I mean, that's a lot of damage. 8 times my usual power attack damage, which is, let me, hold on, come on. This one, it's not just 57 actually, because I have this skill, remember? Let's go back to the skill here. This one gives 50% extra. So it's dealing 57 times half. So that's about 83 something times 8. That's a lot of, that's almost 500 sneak damage. Not too bad. So this means the machete and the knives are less good in stand-up fights, but they're really good when you're slowly sneaking through your POIs. Just make sure you're wearing light armor so you don't make too much noise, and just backstab all these or stab all these zombies while they're sleeping, because normally you'll be able to kill them in one hit, as long as you're hitting the head at least. Even better, there's actually some books as well. If you're looking at the Night Stalker, there are some books that are actually fairly good as an extra damage or extra skills. So number 1 gives you 10% more sneak damage at night. Now you might not want to be clearing the POIs at night, but again, if you are, it's helpful. Bladed weapons do 10% more damage at night. Again, stacks 10 plus 10, not too bad. And then do an extra 50% sneak damage to sleeping victims at night. Again, this stacks with everything else and just gives you so much more damage. And the last one, sneak attacks with knives deal 200% extra damage at night. I'm here, I got a feral carcass, and let me just do sneak damage, sneak attack. I can reach it, and 8 times damage. Actually, not too bad. And of course, you do want to be careful so you don't wake everything up. Let's see if I make some noise here. Alright, you make some noise and they will all wake up. And this is where you really want to run away. And shows where it's not as useful. I can hit them. Hit this one. Hit this one. I can run away. It will work, but you see the rest of them are coming after me. And here's another one. Legendary. Oh, yep. And they will be running after me. Now they might be slowed. And here's the white coming as well. Now taking on all these ones, yes. You might be able to get away a little bit easier because they are running 20% slower. However, you know, it makes sure you don't get overwhelmed, because any melee weapon is going to be very difficult to kill a lot of zombies that come after you. So I'm going to be just running off here as we finish up the episode. So would I use a knife or machete? I wouldn't mind using it if I'm clearing POIs and I'm trying to be stealthy. Now, if I'm not being stealthy, it's fairly pointless compared to some of the other weapons. I feel having a club, for instance, or sledgehammer is probably better overall. But some people really like bladed weapons. Just that their main benefit is really from sneak attacks. That's where they really shine. So what do you think? Do you use knives? Do you use the machete? Or do you prefer other melee weapons? Let me know in the comment section below. And the good thing is that bleed has been fixed for Alpha 19, so at least it's more useful than it was previously. So enjoy your murdering zombies at night. I'm gonna run home. See you next time.
Special thanks to the great patrons supporting the channel. If you would like to join the vetted community and support these videos, do follow the Patreon link.